What is up guys, welcome back to another Dying Light 2 video. Today we are looking at something that everyone is talking about. This is the multiplayer that is coming to DL2. This topic has confused a lot of players already because it's not like we're getting a multiplayer world. Similar to the likes of GTA or Red Dead Online, we will be getting a co-op multiplayer world where we can join up with randoms or friends. But there are some limitations in what can be done and we're going to be covering everything within this video. But before I do get into the video, if you do want to see any more content from me or keep up to date with Dying Light 2, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. We are currently doing weekly videos here on this channel, and when more information gets revealed about this upcoming game, we will have it all covered here on this channel. Getting back into the video, it has been confirmed by Techland that Dying Light 2 will be getting a multiplayer game mode, but things will be slightly different this time around. In Dying Light, we did have a co-op option where friends or other random players can join our sessions and help us play through the game. To set this up, it was incredibly easy. The first thing that you need to do was finish the prologue. This would take around 30 to 40 minutes of the intro for the game. Then secondly, you would need to go into your settings, set the game type option to be public in the online menu. This was all you needed to do. When you've done this, you can have friends or random players join your game. But just like it can be turned on, it can also be turned off if you wanted to be a solo player and go for that solo experience. With Dying Light 2, things are going to be similar in this aspect. You should be able to turn it off or on whenever you want. If you do want to join another friend's session, you can do so, as long as they do have the settings set up so that they have the option for other players to join, and it goes both ways. But with Dying Light 2, things are slightly different in the world that you'll be joining, and this is because of the narrative choices. The narrative choices have brought a lot of problems to multiplayer, but has also opened up a lot of doors. So the big innovation of Dying Light 2 is that your actions have consequences that affect the city. If you help one faction, then they will flourish and make their mark on a city, painting it in their colors, opening up parkour routes, and dependent on the faction, they could set up useful fronts like water points and crafting stations. All of this can be used by you. But while one faction flourishes, other factions may recede, so they no longer belong within your world. And this is very cool. It's already one of Dying Light 2's biggest selling points. But it would have led to a few problems if Dying Light 2 was set up in a similar way to the likes of GTA Online and Red Dead Online, where you can join an online version of that world, because the world that would be included within that multiplayer would have to be different for everyone. And this is where a lot of players would lose their immersion. So to solve this issue, Techland have included it very similar to what they had with Dying Light, where you can have a co-op multiplayer, where it's not a lobby filled with 20 to 30 players, and even if you were to have a small group of 4 players, you do not share everything. Instead, you'll have one player that must host the game and the other 3 friends can join in. This way, multiplayer is still part of the game, but it does mean when you join one of your friends' world, they're going to have something that is vastly different to your world, and it will be the same for most players that you join. It's very unlikely that someone's going to be going through this game making the exact same narrative choices that you're making, especially with how many narrative choices there's supposed to be within the game. You'll be joining worlds where someone has given a certain outpost to a completely different faction to you. And when they've done that, they've also built around that and also offered different types of outposts, different types of settlements, different types of safe houses, all to different types of factions. And all of this has a huge effect on the world that surrounds you, because you can't have a shared world where all 4 players go into the exact same world and they start from the prologue and go through everything, and every single person has their own save game. It also brings the situation of where you have to create your own world. You have to start the story first and then progress through the prologue, and you could even have situations where someone is a lot further ahead compared to other players. If that happens and you join a friend which hasn't progressed through the story as much as you, when you join, you could be limited. You may not have all the upgrade options, all the weapons, all the vehicles, all the skills that you've unlocked before. And this is because the world that you're now being a part of isn't as progressed as much as your own actual world. And this actually comes from a PC Games interview back in 2018. It says this: players entering a game game will still have their progression, but they may not be able to use their weapons because if you previously chose some other path on some level, you might not have access to it in your host game. And this is another one of those situations where it comes down to immersion. It is a lot of fun playing with friends in games like this, but it does become very boring after a while if your friend joins after he's maxed out absolutely everything. He's got the best weapons, the best armor in the game, he's absolutely stacked in every way possible. They join your game and absolutely destroy everything on the first couple of levels, leaving you having nothing to do. Not to mention that you also have the complete reverse effect where if that friend is incredibly generous, they've managed to finish their game, unlock absolutely everything, and when they join your world, they go and drop down the most powerful weapons within the game that you can only unlock after finishing the game. This sounds cool, but then from that point onwards, as you are only starting the game, it becomes incredibly easy, and this would also lead to you being bored. So Techland have tried to involve multiplayer co-op as part of this game where you can still progress through the story, but you're not getting into a situation where it's all on one other player's back. But they have to carry absolutely everything because they have progressed a lot further than everyone else. They've tried to make it so that as soon as you join, you're still all on a similar type of level. Now we have talked about a lot of different problems with this game, but there is also a lot of different positives because you are joining a host world where they've managed to make different types of narrative choices as they've progressed through the story. You're going to see worlds that are completely different to yours. This isn't just about different types of colors on buildings, this is also unlocking different types of skills. One very good example that has already been revealed to us is when we look at the different types of factions. We've already been told about a few of these factions, but two of the ones that we have the most information about is the Peacekeepers and the Scavengers. Both of these play a main part within Dying Light 2, but they have very different types of philosophies and they want to deal with the world in a completely different way. With the Peacekeepers, they just want to kill all the infected. They kill all the infected, they then get to live happily ever after. But the Scavengers believe that that's not the way to deal with things. They believe if you were to kill the infected, more infected are just going to show up, and it's just a never-ending cycle. So the Scavengers want to create a haven for themselves, a place where they can just fence themselves off from the infected. Both of these are reasonable solutions, but when it comes to Dying Light 2, it also leads to there being a lot of conflict between these two groups, especially when they're fighting over resources or different types of outposts. We have been given the example of the outpost being a swimming pool. The Peacekeepers think that it's going to be a great place to have a training ground, where they're able to train their soldiers, and it's also a place where it's easy to mop up the blood from the tiles. While the Scavengers want to start growing plants in this location that can be used to produce fuel. If you're able to produce biofuel, you're then able to add vehicles to your world, both of which have huge benefits to you as the player. Now all of this fits into multiplayer because of the choices that you make and the worlds that you join. You can have situations where you join a world where someone has picked something completely different to you, in which if you do join that world, you could potentially have access to vehicles which you never had access to before. On the other hand, you can have a situation where you join a world where you have access to better and more exclusive types of weapons which you never had access to before. You can see how this goes, and this will be the case for every single outpost that you come across. And now you can start to see the huge amounts of variations that you have between different worlds. It's not just about unlocking different types of parkour routes or just the different types of colors within the buildings. It's the functionality of the world that you belong to. And just to finish this video, it may go without saying, but let's say that you join a friend and they're hosting the world. Any type of progression that you make within that world, as soon as you go back to your own world, unfortunately it does not carry over. This could be seen as a positive or a negative. Maybe the host that made choices within that multiplayer co-op version wasn't the choices that you would have made and you wanted to see something completely different. You can now go back to your own world and make those choices. But if you was on the other side of things where you would make the exact same choices that the host made, you now go back to your world and you have to replay everything all over again. It will also most likely be the same if you were to get any type of loot, any type of good weapons, any types of vehicles, anything like that within the multiplayer co-op that cannot be brought back to your single player world. The only person that can do this is the host itself, because when they are hosting multiplayer, they're actually still progressing their own story. So this is multiplayer within Dying Light 2. I know this video has been fairly lengthy just to talk about multiplayer coming to Dying Light 2, but there has already been a lot of questions raised raised about this, there's also been a lot of confusion, and I wanted to cover everything within just one video. At some point within the future, I'm sure Techland will be releasing a Dying to New episode all based around multiplayer, and that's when we'll get even more information. But until then, this video breaks down everything that you need to know for now, and we will come back to this at a later date once more information has been revealed. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. But anyway guys, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did enjoy, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. But for now, I'm going, so see ya.